One of the most unique changes was cutting a big hole in the front of our home shrine. Because of the way it fit up against the wall, an empty wall, Angela thought it would be fun if the children could have a place to climb into the shrine and play. And the children loved it. Pillows, blankets, stuffed animals, and children holding rosaries prayed inside while Mom and Dad led the rosary outside.
Steve put hinges on a picture that conceals the opening, and the children would close themselves in and hide. The children huddled quietly inside to surprise their first victim, Father Jonathan. He entered the shrine room, and Steve and I began to pray as if nothing was unusual and certain children weren't missing. Then, at the pre-reverse time, I asked, "Are the angels listening to our prayers?" And a unanimous yes with giggles exploded from underneath the shrine, and the door burst open as our three smiling cherubs, Rachel, Mary, and Jessica, appeared.
For 18 years, we have had these wonderful home shrine experiences. Our home shrine would become the uniting force that would draw us all together. This unity was not only with our own family, but with the whole Schoenstatt family, and with Father Kentenich as our spiritual father and teacher.
As we have learned about Father Kentenich's teaching during his years in Milwaukee, he proclaimed that couples should strive to become an image of the Holy Family. Not just a heavenly idea, but a very real, down-to-earth ideal lived in everyday life in the midst of our world today. He gave them three principles.
Firstly, the Nazareth family, the father and the mother, occupy the position foreseen for them by God from all eternity.
Secondly, in the Nazareth family, the child is the focal point.
Thirdly, in the Nazareth family, father, mother, and children are united by the bond of deep, warm love. As the couples worked closely with Father, divine providence led them to give birth to the home shrine as a way to live out this Nazareth ideal. This gift of the home shrine was not only meant for Milwaukee couples, but for us as a family and for every family as well. To arrive at an understanding of this ideal, God needed to use Mary in our home shrine to renew our family. Mary renews our family through the home shrine.
To our great sorrow, the first 10 years of our married life were lived far away from this Nazareth ideal. Our desire for family unity was present, but dormant deep within our hearts. We both worked full-time to meet the many expenses of our growing family. We were convinced that our children were most important, so we decided to arrange our work schedules to always have one of us home with them. This meant we were rarely together as a family, and eventually we even quit attending Sunday Mass.
The few times we were together, I was often angry with Angela. It was not a just anger, it was a selfish anger, usually having to do with our daily routine. The angrier I was, the more distant she became. While she was at work, I focused on the children. When she was home, I would get away from my responsibilities by hanging out with a friend.
I enjoyed my job as a nurse, which gave me breaks from Steve and the fights we frequently had. But that was really hard for me because I had to leave the children. Working out of the home and running to different activities kept me really distracted. I was often unable to give my full attention, even to the children. So I became bitter towards Steve and ignored him the rare times we were together. Because of the pressures of life and of the world, we grew farther and farther away from the truths of the church, even to a point where we both completely closed ourselves off to the gift of new life.
Deep down, we knew we loved each other and would do anything for our children. But because of heated arguments and financial struggles and stress of raising a large family, and the lack of family spiritual life, our marriage finally hit a wall. One day, Angela left with our 5 children while I was at work. When I came home, I realized that all that I had was gone. I called her morning, noon, and night, and I told her I would do anything if she would just come back home.
As I sobbed and held our children, I wondered, how do I pray? The only prayer I could pray was, Grandpa Tony, please help me. Grandma Mary, pray for us. When Steve told me he would do anything, I remembered how much my grandparents prayed and how important church was to them. I told Steve I would be willing to get back together if we would start going back to church.
I said yes. I was so happy to have Angela and the children back. Even if it meant going to church, I was going to do everything I could to make it work. But the time of grace and renewal began. It began to embrace us both. At this time, our oldest child was enrolled in a parochial school, and her class was preparing to receive the sacraments of confession and Holy Communion. We arranged Angela's work schedule so that we could attend Mass together again on Sundays, and by helping our daughter prepare for confession, we prepared to make our own homecoming to the church. It had been over 10 years since we had gone to confession.
Another part of our daughter's preparation was learning to pray the whole rosary. She came home very sad one day and said, Mama, everyone knows how to pray the rosary except me. I remembered my grandparents again. I took up the materials she brought home and we began to pray the rosary every day.
Since Angela had cut back on her hours, I decided to deliver newspapers for extra money. There happened to be a Catholic church on my paper route. I would see a light on in the chapel and wonder why people would be coming and going at 5 a.m. I learned it was for adoration of the Blessed Sacrament, and we began to attend.
Soon we were invited to a Schoenstatt couples group. With our tarnished beginnings, we didn't really feel like our family could ever belong to Schoenstatt. Now we have come to realize that the misery we experienced in not living the unity of a Nazareth family, this was exactly the key God would use to open the door to our hearts for our renewal and education in the School of Father Kinsman.
A year and a half after returning to church, we headed down to Sleepy Eye, the Schoenstatt Shrine in Minnesota, for our covenant of love. Some people asked why we ever entered Schoenstatt. All we could say is that we were desperate. All we knew is the covenant of love was calling on Mary.
Finally, here was something we agreed upon. Well, sort of. If I were to ask Steve, I'm sure he would say that he took me to the shrine to straighten me out. I would say going to the shrine was to straighten him out.
And we were both right. We both sincerely loved our children and just weren't sure what to do next. They were getting older now and sensed our lack of discipline. It was only a matter of time before they would sense our insecurities and rebel. We intuitively saw that we, in our little Nazareth family, were not living as true father and mother as Father Kinsinek had shown in the ideal. It was through the grace of education of the Blessed Mother that our eyes began to open.
In our covenant prayers, the thing that struck me the most was how Mother Christ Admirable wanted to take our children. We placed them in her hands with such confidence that we almost felt childless. We knew we needed to do our part, but it seems so much lighter now. The covenant of love for us is very united in the Homeshrine because we dedicated it just 4 days later.
So on the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, December 8th, 1994, our parish priest blessed our Homeshrine. We chose the title, Seek the Truth, as its name. We felt we had been lost in the darkness and didn't always know where to find the light. We wanted to be educated in the truth, especially for our children's sake. Deep in our hearts, our children were at the center.
To have Mother Mary move in with us was such an intimate moment. It gives us great pleasure to think of all the times she has watched the children play, laugh, sing, and even cry. She renewed our family unity as we all took her into our home and made her our mother. We now felt that in our little Nazareth family, we, as father, mother, and children, We're more united by the bond of deep, warm love.
Mary educates our family in the Homeshrine. We have covered the first period of grace, the renewal of our family through the Homeshrine. Now we will share how Mary educated our family in the Homeshrine. As each one experienced the healing renewal